Donna Goines, a Kenyatta novel. Crime Partners, Chapter 2. Two men sat in the car in front of the shabby frame house. The outside paint job on the house was a battleship gray that looked as if it had seen one battle too many. In many places the paint was peeling, while in others the boards were coming loose. "Jackie, do you really think this nigga has got some money?" the man on the passenger side of the car asked. "He's got to have some kind of cash, Billy," the tall, hawk-faced man driving stated clearly. "Just use common sense, Billy Good," he continued, using the man's full name. It was a habit he had adopted from prison, where most men were called by their last names. The two men had met in prison 10 years ago, and since then they had become rap partners, having been busted before on an armed robbery charge. Each man had gotten 5 years out of it, but that had only tightened up the relationship between them. Now they felt as if they could completely trust each other, each knowing exactly how the other would react during a sudden interruption on one of their many robberies. "I don't know," Billy began quietly. "I ain't never liked taking off these small jobs, Jackie. Before we go in the joint, we already up on the fact that we ain't gonna score for no more than a couple of hundred. I mean, it would be different if we were dope addicts or something. But don't either one of us have to have the stuff. Yeah, we'll snort a bit every now and then, but that's it. So why should we be fronting ourselves off for a petty stick-up? God damn, Billy Good, we went through this shit earlier. You and me both agreed that this would be a safe hit. They ain't gonna call no law in after we leave. Plus, the punk JoJo ain't nothing but pussy. So it's like taking candy from a baby. We just walk in and take it. That's all there is to it." Billy reached over and pushed the cigarette lighter in. "I know, Jackie. Maybe that's what's the problem. I keep remembering the cute little girl they got. You know, the last time we were here, she went out of her way to fix me up a glass of cold water. I know it's a small thing, but the kid reminds me of my little girl in New York." Billy removed the lighter and lit his smoke before continuing. "Yeah, I know a glass of water ain't nothing, but Jackie, I know the kid's folks ain't got a fucking thing, and if we take the little bit they got, it's gonna be just that less that the kid gets." "That's bullshit, man," Jackie stated harshly. "Dig, man. All you got to do is think, Billy. Remember how damn raggedy the child dress was? Okay then. It goes to show that the mother ain't even using the fucking welfare check they probably get every month for the child. So what we take ain't depriving the child of nothing. What's gonna happen is they ain't gonna be able to shoot up as much dope this month as they did last month. That's all." "I guess you're just about right," Billy said as he finally made up his mind. If they were spending any kind of money on that kid, it would be food. As puny as she is, I know she's underfed." "That's right," Jackie answered quickly. "If they ain't worried about feeding the kid, you know damn well they ain't worried about what kind of clothes she wears." Billy laughed suddenly as he opened his car door. "We make a hell of a set of stick-up men, Jackie, don't we? Here we are, soft as grapes, worried about some kid." Jackie saw the humor in it himself. Jackie saw the humor in it himself. He joined his partner in laughing. He had seen Billy shoot down a woman once without batting an eye, and yet there was the same man worried about taking the food out of a child's mouth. It was a strange world, he reflected, and stranger still were the men and women who lived in it. As the two men started up the sidewalk, it was apparent why the detectives in the hold-up department downtown had tagged the crime partners as Mutt and Jeff. Jackie stood 6'4" in his socks, while Billy was only 5'6". But what he didn't have in height, Billy made up for in width. He was built like a stocky breeding bull. At first glance, he appeared not to have a neck. Billy was naturally a husky person, but lifting weights in prison had added to his frame. The huge muscles under his clothes seemed to roll around as he walked. Jackie was just the opposite. He was lean to the point of being almost gaunt. He had the appearance of a drug addict, even though he was not one yet. But his love of snorting heroin was leading him down the path of drug addiction. In time, if he continued to use drugs at the rate he was doing, he would become an addict. When they reached the front door, both men hesitated before knocking. Each man checked the pistol in his waist, making sure the gun didn't protrude. "Well, baby boy, this is it," Jackie stated calmly as he raised his fist and knocked. When there was no sound from the inside, he knocked louder. The sudden commotion at the front door startled the two frightened people inside. Tina jumped as though she was being shot at. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind, and before JoJo could say anything, she fled to the door and jerked it open. The two men outside the door jumped back, surprised. For a second, they thought they had been unlucky enough to walk up on a bust. But at second glance, they could see wild-eyed Tina standing there. "Please, please come in. I want you to help me wake up my baby. She fell and hit her head," Tina stated as she held the door wide open. Billy was the first one through the door. For some reason, the mention of the child put a cold finger of fear around his heart. As he walked through the front room, he stepped over the broken broom and noticed the blood spots on the floor. As soon as he entered the bedroom, a feeling of horror washed over him. Nobody had bothered to wash up the child. Her young body was covered with marks from her ordeal. Blood was all over her face and neck, but what really shook Billy was the expression of terror on the child's face. The thought flashed through his mind instantly that this child was beaten to death. Even before he reached the edge of the bed and felt her thin hand, he knew she was dead. When Jackie reached the bed, he glanced over at his partner and was surprised to see Billy standing there crying. Tears ran freely down the husky man's cheeks as he held the child's hand helplessly. "She's dead," Billy stated as if he couldn't believe it. "The kid's dead, Jack." Jackie had seen death before, but this was the first time he had ever seen a person who had been beaten to death. "Yeah, she's gone, Billy," Jackie stated, then added, "but sure in the fuck didn't die from falling and hitting her head on something, man." "Yes, she did," JoJo answered quickly. "She was running and fell up against the edge of the bed there and cracked her head." The lie was obvious. There was no reason for the two men to even begin to believe it, but Billy still glanced over there to where JoJo said the child had fallen. Instead of seeing what JoJo had wanted him to see, he saw the large leather belt. "That's what the motherfucker used to beat the child with," Billy said. He pointed the belt out with his finger. "Yeah," Jackie replied. "He used that and the broken broom in the next room." When his words didn't seem to reach Billy, Jack whirled on his heels and went back into the front room and picked up the broken broom. He carried it to the front of him as if it was a snake, tossing it at Billy's feet. Let's do that again. He carried it in the front of him as if it was a snake, tossing it at the feet of Billy. That's one of the things this motherfucker used, man. No telling what else he beat her with. "Shit," Tina yelled. "I thought you guys would help me, not stand there and play police. She needs help." As Billy stared at the broken broom, the transformation came over him slowly. The tears on his cheeks dried up and his features became rock hard. His pale grayish eyes began to glitter dangerously. "If it's money you want, I got some. Money," Tina screamed at the man as she snatched open her purse and grabbed the money. Here, I'll pay you. Just help me get my daughter to the hospital. That's all. The doctors can do something for her." Had the men known more about insanity, they would have realized the shock of her child dying had been too much for the mother. Her mind wouldn't accept the fact that the child was dead. "Put that goddamn money up," JoJo ordered harshly. "If they'll take us to the hospital, I'll pay them for it." Before JoJo's outreached hand could reach the money in Tina's hand, Billy had struck. He whirled around and swung a left hook to JoJo's midsection. The punch folded JoJo up, but Billy didn't stop there. He raised his knees and kicked the man in the face. As JoJo fell back, Billy followed him, raining punches into the man's face until JoJo was almost out on his feet. While this was going on, Jackie didn't waste any time. He took the pocketbook from the woman and shook the contents out on the bed. He slowly picked the money up and stuffed it into his pockets while he watched his partner beat JoJo damn near to death. Suddenly, Billy stopped punching the bloody man in front of him. He reached inside his suit coat, removed his pistol, and slowly raised the gun up until it was pointed right at JoJo's face. "Man," JoJo managed to say, "what gives with you guys? Take the money if you want it that bad, but don't hurt us, man. God damn, you done hurt me enough already for nothing." "For nothing?" Billy mumbled. Then he raised the gun up again and pulled the trigger. The shot tore half of JoJo's face off. Billy pulled the trigger again, blowing the left eye out of the mutilated face. The sound of the gunshots had died down before Tina was rushing over and throwing herself down beside her man. "Oh God," she screamed loudly. "You done went and killed my man." She raised her finger and pointed at Billy. "I won't forgive you, you bastard, you," she screamed over and over. Without a trace of emotion, Billy raised the pistol and shot her in the head. As she fell over beside the dead man, he leaned down and shot her again. Jackie glanced at the front door nervously. "Okay, baby, it's over with. Let's get the fuck out of here." Without waiting to see if his words had reached home, Jackie started towards the door. He didn't bother to glance back. When they got to the front of the door, Jackie glanced up and down the street to see if the gunshots had drawn any attention. But the street was empty, and the man slipped out of the quiet house.